I think we have some questions. Let me just double check here. Some questions on the chat. So Gavin is asking, this will be perfect for when self-driving vehicles assume all delivery responsibilities, sorry, taxi, public transport, material delivery, and so on. This was a question to Mike, and Mike responded. I think, Mike, you responded, but you want to elaborate on the video?
Yeah, right now we're still using human beings to deliver the prefabricated modules. But maybe in the future, someday, when the technology becomes more mature, I think we can actually integrate that just-in-time delivery model for self-driving vehicles. Maybe that will achieve better just-in-time delivery for Hong Kong for this MS approach. Yeah. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, possibly. I think there is some work to be done in respect to self-driving transport systems, self-operating transport systems, especially cars and vehicles on the road. But I think eventually we will get there. And yeah, when we get there, then things change quite a lot. You can have more precision, I believe. Yeah. So I have a question for Sylvia, and I thought, Sylvia, your presentation and Lavinia's work, it's very interesting. But how do you deal, because you're using all those LLMs, sorry. And when you're dealing with those large language models, how do you deal with LLM hallucinations? How do you know the data you're getting from LLMs are correct? Like the output is correct? You're muted.
Yeah. This is not the focus of me or Lavinia, but there are some colleagues from the computer science department working on this. So for better information, you can keep in contact with them if you want. And anyway, they defined some key performance indicators, such as the one I showed you, the NGDC, which are defined in the field of LLM to understand the correctness of the results. And they compared the different systems to understand which one was the best one.
And how do you apply those KPIs? Because never mind having the KPI, this is a great thing, you should have them, the KPIs are there, but how do I apply them to large amounts of data? And how do you know that the KPI is being applied correctly?
I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer. I have to check with them.
Yeah, because that could potentially, that could be potentially the recipe for disaster.
Yeah, sure. We should consider this.
Yeah, so there is an amazing video. It's more like a monologue from an ex chief data scientist from Google discussing exactly this, that hallucinations in large language models are by design. We need them because this is what propels the creativity in LLMs. So we need some hallucination, but the difference between an hallucination and some amazing insight from some LLM is your viewpoint, as a user, your viewpoint, because you ask something that needs some thinking. And if you get the answer you want, then that's great for you. If you get an answer that is different from what you want, you would call that an hallucination.
Yeah, sure. An important part is the data analysis, the results analysis. I know this kind of issues is such as the hallucinations. But I can't answer how they manage this part.
Yes. And a question that I have for all of you, and I think you're all dealing with that because you're thinking about solutions, is your stakeholders. I think this is particularly valid for Sylvia, but also Daniele, but it's valid for all of you. So when you're thinking about your stakeholders and what you need to consider from your stakeholders, for example, requirements, how you're going to classify and organize your requirements, what is the classification you have at the moment for your stakeholders? How do you think about them? Not so much saying, okay, we're going to have so the car driver is a stakeholder and the construction site manager is another stakeholder. Is a little bit above that, like so if you're developing systems, you would say we have internal stakeholders, we have external stakeholders, we have regulatory stakeholders, etc. So how are you thinking about your stakeholders and how you're classifying them? So I think I'll go around the screen here and ask from all of you. So starting with Mike, you're the first one I see here, Mike.
Oh yeah. Based on the experience that we have of our blockchain-based projects, I think it's really important to get the pain points from these project stakeholders. For example, the project mentioned by Professor Wilson Liu, we developed a blockchain-based e-inspection system. That was because the government agencies really concerned about the quality of these MSE modules that they produce from mainland China. And for the second project I mentioned, which is just-in-time delivery of MSE modules, these are also the pain points raised by the project stakeholders in practice. I think it's really important to talk to the project clients, talk to the main contractors, talk to different types of stakeholders to get the actual user requirements, and then to design the solutions to address these pain points. Rather than just simply apply the technology to talk about blockchain technology, I think this is very important. Yeah.
Yes, it's critical. It's critical. Otherwise, you're just talking about tech. And it's okay to talk about technology. It's cool. We all love technology. But when you're trying to create a solution with some technology, you need to know who is going to use that solution and what do they require.
Yeah,
that's quite key. Yeah. So Terence, can I get some views from you?
Yes, I'm quite agree with Mike. I think the communication is always the most important part of like when we apply the blockchain or develop them, discuss what kind of problem we want to solve is the most important stuff we figured out. And so my thought is quite similar to Mike, so that's it.
Right. Okay. And can you just, from the top of your head, tell me who are your stakeholders for your project? Would you be able to name them?
Yes, I have done some like for my research is mainly about the sustainability, some data in that, like the ESGs, like the carbon emissions, something like that. So for normally we will say the government or the supervision units will be one of them, and also the construction company their own also will be one of the stakeholders. So something just it's also not too much data related technologies applied in the sustainability. So in the data management or something. So most of the situations we just discussed communication to make sure what kind of information can be applied from somewhere else. And it's just based on different scenarios.
Right. The next one is Daniele. So what stakeholders you have and how do you classify them?
Well, my background is project management. So if identifying the stakeholders usually be the first step. Well, I've seen a lot of projects that was completely a disaster because a stakeholder that hasn't been properly managed or identified.
So not so much about identification, but what are the ones you're considering and how do you classify them?
Yeah, for me, that's a challenge. That will be the mapping those. But for now, we are considering like manufacturers. We are considering the architects, that's the decision makers, client, for of course the client, first one. And stakeholders, we also consider government, like standards, and also like organizations, like we said, like product or PSI, like the standards, and also like BSA, that the testing as well. So it's a massive roadmap that we end up with. Yeah. And also contractors, subcontractor, and engineers, consultants, and PMs. So, yeah.
Right. And so because usually you have like external, internal, and regulatory, and then you can classify all of them using those higher terms. But often if you look at the onion diagram for stakeholder classification, as they have, you always, the center of it is always a product or a service, and then you have your business stakeholders as well. And this is quite important. And sometimes you have something called external affected stakeholders. And for example, a client is an external stakeholder. External affected stakeholder could be a client, but could be the end user, for example. So I think this is very important when you're mapping your requirements. And thank you very much. And Sylvia, because you have like a very different, because you're dealing with a public tendering, and that's quite interesting.
Sorry, I have very different.
A different research project, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so in terms of stakeholders, which ones you consider? How do you classify them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have a lot of stakeholders. In particular, we have the public administrators, so the public client, which should define the requirements, their requirements, and also the regulatory requirements. And we also have the bidders, so the designers, which should provide the offers. Other stakeholders, we also have of course, the judge commission, because you can automate the evaluation of the quantitative criteria, but you cannot automate also the qualitative part evaluation. So we still will have the human part, let me say. And so all these stakeholders should provide information and exchange information during all the procedure.
That's interesting. Do you think you're going to find more stakeholders that are relevant to the solution you are creating or the process you're creating? Some stakeholders that are very important, but you did not consider yet?
Me?
Yes.
I don't know. At the moment, I think we consider everyone.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's interesting. I think this is like critical to start to develop your solution, your system. So one very interesting thing that I've seen is in Terence's presentation was the ontology development. So Terence, can I ask you to elaborate a little bit more on when you talk about that ontology, you seem to be discussing a systems classification very similar to the IFC data schema. I just wonder if you can elaborate a little bit more on how you see that ontology developing as you move forward with your next steps.
Yes, this is another future development. We aim to switch to.
Sorry, Sylvia, this was for Terence.
Sorry.
Yeah, Terence.
I have very bad network, sorry. Also, the audio is not fine today.
Yeah, so Terence says, yeah, it's you, but I think you muted. Yeah.
Yes. May I beg your pardon?
Yeah, so you discuss your ontology development, right? And it looks a lot like a systems classification. for the solution you're creating. And I just wonder how you see this developing, because you did mention quite a number of different data schemas and so on, the IFC that you're using and so on. So I just wonder how you think about the further development of your ontology, how this is going to evolve over time.
Our ontology is mainly for the IFC files is, we know as a B model, it's just like different classified. And when we use the ontology we can clarify what kind of information the IFC files will have and what kind of files IFC file cannot provide to us. And also based on that, we can link this kind of data from the IFC files using the ontology to the real world, like the carbon emission management, like the sustainable or something else. And based on that, we can make the logic be more reasonable, or we can make everything is included in our management framework. So, and based on that, we developed our blockchain system, blockchain framework, can make sure the data, all the data we needed can be included. So that is the mainly part of we using that. And IFC have their own structures, so we can just develop the ontology and something else based on that.
Yeah. Do you think that ontology will be used also to validate applications for operations and asset management?
Sometimes I find that for the applications or for the real world constructions, maybe the ontology will not directly show to people. And but under the water, underground, the basic development or the construction of the system or something will still need the ontology as a basic law.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost like a grammar check, right? It's a grammar check for your system. I think this is also applicable for everyone here because, that description, it's very powerful for your research, right? So for Mike, I had a question. It is mainly about, I thought it was fascinating because it's very, what you are proposing, it's just one of those, it's almost like Twitter, the old Twitter that now is called X. It's a very simple thing, but very powerful. So my question is, and please, everyone in the audience, if you want to ask questions, please ask the questions. But my question is how difficult was the adoption when you run your pilot? Did they have to have some training to understand the app, or was very easy to adopt, was very straightforward? How was that process?
Well, I think at the beginning it's not very easy, but we have the advantage of working with the government agency. So this project is actually provided by the local housing authority. So by working with the local government, they kind of asking the logistic companies to mandate the use of this proposed platform. So but we actually did some of the trainings. I went to the MSA factories to explain the details of this platform to MSA factories, to explain the details and the benefits of this platform to the MSA logistic companies. So after, I think, 4 or 5 training sessions, they actually realized the technical aspects of this system and the benefits of this system. So they're starting to actually accept and use of this system. So the pilot trial took almost half a year, and then obviously the results are quite good at the moment. And then we're trying to apply the proposed platform for the second public housing project. It's gonna start in December. So let's say how the platform performs in the next project.
Yes, yeah, that's super interesting. And adoption is usually very underestimated. And people say, oh, we have this amazing technology, it's going to solve all the problems. And then people don't want to use it, or they don't know how to use it. And nobody prioritizes training. And sometimes it ends up being a total failure. So that
Yes.
cultural aspect is very important.
Yeah, so we actually try to simplify all the user interfaces for the users. For example, they just need to use the mobile applications by simply clicking the buttons to connect the mobile app with the AIoT devices and the MSC trucks. So they don't have to do any complicated stuff. So trying to
Right.
keep it simple and make things happen.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. And I have one specific question for Danielle. And Danielle, so I know it's very early days. You are in your first year PhD. There's a lot going on. You're reading a lot, and you kind of in this period of forming what the PhD is going to be. So, but from your perspective and from what you've learned so far, so what are the alternatives in the construction industry for traceability? Because people need to find things, and so they use those things, those material things, objects, to build whatever they are going to build. So what blockchain is not being used in the construction industry, it's being used in some other industries for quite some time now. So if with the advent of the absence of blockchain in the construction industry, what are the alternatives for reliable traceability?
That's a really good question. I mean, the industry is highly fragmented. People are using BIM, but BIM, it's also like in UK we have the rebus stage. So BIM is not used from stage 3 to 6. They are just using at the design stage. So what I see in the industry, like we use BIM, and then when we start the construction, we start another system. Because of the golden thread in UK now, we are establishing a digital platforms to record the construction. So we have some information from manufacturer, so all the process. So, and we have the BIM, and then we have the construction digital platforms, and then we have back to the as-built drawings and BIM or AutoCAD, stuff like that. So I think the massive challenge is to put all those together. And
yeah, but so I'll just reframe my question. Yeah, so we don't use BIM, but buildings are still being built.
yes.
And how do you know, or how do we know that they are what they are supposed to be?
We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, so that's
That's
scary.
the problem, like because that's what happened with Greenfell. The inquiries basically they released the saying like we don't know. She clearly said we don't know what we have in our buildings. That we have another like problem with rock. It's another like concrete that now it's falling in our schools. And it's not because of the product, it's because we didn't know that the life cycle of the product is shorter than we should be. So we should have replaced them a long time ago. And I think we are improving with these digital platforms. So now UK is trying to connect, like they're sending back to the government a bit, giving the government a bit more responsibility with this building safety control regulator, that he's asking for more information. So the industry now is dividing the construction in gateways, at least for they call the high risk buildings. So we still don't have the full information of the in one place. It's still fragmented.
Yeah, it is, but many other industries are fragmented, as you say, and then they just happen. I would say the alternative for blockchain at the moment, with the absence of blockchain in the construction industry, is a very heavy and taxing amount of project management, human project management. It's a human-based process for managing the project, and I still do not know exactly what our buildings are made of.
Yeah.
So the alternative, I'm just thinking about the alternatives, right? The alternatives for blockchain. So because, like, for example, like an example I like to give to people is Canterbury Cathedral in the southeast of England. Very famous place. Canterbury is the birthplace of the Anglican Church, and you have the Canterbury Cathedral. And it's a huge cathedral, and it has been built without architects. It was built by pilgrims, people coming from France, people coming from all parts of England, built this cathedral without drawings. They just went there and built a little bit and left. And the cathedral is kind of a wonky. It's not very straight, but it is still, after I think over millennia or close to 1,000 years, it is still there. So that's very interesting, because we can have those emergent behaviors in cultures and in societies and so on, and you can have traceability without blockchain. So I'm asking those questions to understand exactly what is the value of blockchain in the construction sector. You save time, you probably get a better quality product.
I think it's a unique place. You have one place that you have the information together, and
a single source of truth.
Yeah, a single, and also you cannot remove the information there, so you avoid all like corruption or people that are not being transparent.
I think the idea of eradicating corruption with blockchain, it's a distant future. Yeah, it's not going to happen very soon, because humans are just too clever for that. I don't think blockchain is going to solve it, but as I step towards that direction.
But I think worse than not having information, it's not knowing what we want there. That's the point, because sometimes you say, oh, we want traceability, but what do you want to trace, and why do you want to trace that? And that's why my research is like, what is the requirement? What information we need to trace to give to bring more transparency and accountability to the stakeholders. So that's the point, because we want traceability, but we don't know what we want. I mean, we have high levels, we have standards, we have some information, but not clarity in terms of product.
Yeah. So
I think,
yeah.
I think you just raised another very important question. Humans are very clever. Maybe they can upload like fake documents onto the blockchain system. But blockchain never guarantee the truth of the data before they upload into the blockchain. So if that case happens, it will be just like garbage in and garbage out. So how do we ensure we have different blockchain oracles to solve this kind of issue? Is going to be another big problem.
The thing is that if you do that in the blockchain, what happens? It becomes very expensive for the stakeholder, because you probably cannot delete it. If you do it the right way, you couldn't delete it. You cannot change it as immutable. So if you choose to put garbage in, you will forever be liable for that garbage.
That's why sometimes my research, I say, like, I don't think we can be, I'm still starting the brainstorm, but I don't think for the product we cannot have fully decentralized, fully public. I think at a certain point we need maybe some main points to review the document. For example, like once we insert information about testing, would be the BBA, that would be the person who would be accept or not and insert this information in the block. So that's the point. But this is a good point.
Yes. So there are like a couple of questions here. One from C. Bangins. So wouldn't the alternative be a centralized ledger? Some countries might be going in that direction, establishing a public centralized source of truth. So my answer is probably it wouldn't be a ledger. You're probably talking about a database, not so much a ledger base. And some countries are doing that. So Italy is doing that for the rail industry. They are establishing a accommodating environment for BIM development for rail. And France also is establishing a public accommodating environment for BIM development. and this is hosted by the French government or the Italian government. And I think this is a great thing to do because it gives opportunity to the use of and the adoption of best technology without a problem of vendor locking. But I think we should have interoperability for those centralized databases for federated BIM and federated digital twin. We should have all interoperability possible with the vendors' CDEs out there. So that's quite important. So data should be able to flow, but we shouldn't have the many problems we have at the moment with limitations in technology because of proprietary solutions we acquire to deliver public projects. This is an issue. So I think we have many centralized. So the other thing is the information in the ledger is centralized. There's a one source of truth, but the ledger is distributed as a data architecture is distributed, but you're not going to be looking at lots of different versions of the same ledger. You'll be looking at the same ledger, but the architecture of that ledger is distributed. So you're looking at the same data and information, but you have the resilience of the distributed architecture of the data. So it's still a single source of truth, but you have that resilience that comes with the distribution of the system. And then Gavin Johnson is asking, before I go to Gavin's, any comments on Ben He's question? Do we think we have to have a centralized ledger or a centralized CD and forget about blockchain? So yeah. Mike, Sylvia, Danielle, any comments on that?
I think it really depends on the user cases.
Yes, yeah. It depends vastly on what the application is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gavin's question also, I'll pose this to the discussion panel. A use case for AI to validate inbound information. That's interesting. So what is the role of AI to make sure that we don't get garbage in?
Yeah.
So how would AI do that without the hallucinations and everything else that comes with AI?
I think maybe we're just going to use AI to do the cross-checkings. Maybe, for example, we have different data resources to provide the data to the blockchain, and then the AI have to do the cross-checking between these data sources to ensure the consistency of this data.
We need to train them.
Yeah. You need a very big data set to train the AI, and then
I don't know. I would dispute that. We would need a huge data set if we're dealing with LLMs, right, or neural networks, because that's how they work. Yeah, for neural nets and large language models, all those kind of deep AI, we need lots of data. But there are other forms of AI that precedes that, and they don't need a lot of data. Can anyone give an example? Or the AI experts in the room? The ones that people were exploring a lot when we did not have powerful enough computers to compute neural nets. Like a very simple AI that runs really fast and doesn't need a lot of data is support vector machines, right?
Yeah.
Support vector machines, they don't need a lot of data, and they can check a lot of stuff. They can find the best solution for things within limited data, and they've been developed in a time that computation was expensive. So they might come back. They might come back to be used in fact, we could have support vector machines running on blockchains because they are small. Yeah.
Maybe the zero knowledge proof can be a potential solution for this.
For AI?
Yeah, AI zero knowledge proof. For our blockchain-based projects, we are asking the MSC Factory people to use their fingerprints and facial recognitions to behave like as a blockchain oracles. So whenever they upload this production photos from the factory, they have to use their fingerprints and facial recognitions to make sure like these photos are actually being uploaded by the right person. So
right, yeah.
that's
this is very interesting. I want to hear other views on this because this is very interesting for some news we had very recently. So any comments on this, Sylvia, Danielle, and Terence, or anyone in the audience? I can see quite a few people there online. So I like to challenge the speakers. Sorry, because I like to see what is next. So very recently, there was this announcement of a global ID, right, using blockchain, and that global ID that is being deployed in California at the moment will use blockchain. Yeah, so. It's a very interesting proposition, and it's almost like it's Sam Altman's discuss. It's behind this, and they think that with the advancement of AI in the next era of AI, which will all be about AI agents being created and AI agents dealing with people and dealing with other AI agents, we fundamentally need to make a distinction between human agents, AI agents, and the different types of AI agents. And they are deploying this hardware and blockchain software to create human IDs that prove that you are human. And you go into a coffee shop and there is a machine that will measure your face, create an ID and all that. And you can use this to do all sorts of things, for example, voting. Yeah. So there, it's a very disruptive social tech. Yeah, like it's socially very disruptive. So yeah, and then they are using blockchain because they believe it's the best solution, and they are using zero knowledge proof. Yeah, so people don't see who you are, but they know you are a human, or they know you are an AI agent. And that's quite interesting because it kind of gives that contrast in those kind of large complex systems of who is digital, who is real, who is organic, and so forth. And it could be used for other things. It could definitely be used for other things. So I think this is one almost like safety measure for the application of AI in supply chains, et cetera, et cetera. But I just wonder what you think about that. Yeah, because that creates a landscape that could be quite dystopian, right? It could be quite a disaster, but it can also be very helpful. It can be very helpful. I don't believe the technology is open source. At least there's one particular solution is open source. But it can, for example, create new markets. You know, it can manage stakeholders very efficiently, and it can create that as zero knowledge proof for people to start to deal with situations where they believe some data is wrong or should be validated because they can have their anonymity while contributing to the validation of the data.
Yeah, we can also apply that technology for like BIM user identification. Yeah, because now a lot of BIM software is still using the password login method. It's gonna be very easy to steal these passwords to change the designs on the BIM software. So maybe we can apply that zero knowledge proof to BIM user identification. It's gonna be a very secure method.
Yes. So I'm noting the time. well past our conclusion time. So I just wonder if we can get just some final comments from the discussion group, from you guys, some final thoughts, final statements, so we can conclude the session. So I start from left to right. So I have Danielle here.
So thanks for the opportunity. Abel, was really interesting. It's good to see like different research and different mindsets and perspective. A lot of new things. I took some notes here that I will search after those. I think that's pretty much that. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Yes, Mike, final thoughts?
Well, I think it's very important to exchange the ideas, to get all the insights from you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you maybe next year in Europe. Yes, or in China. We will discuss possibilities. I look forward to catching up with you. Sylvia, final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that a big issue is quite common to all our potential application, and also to the one you were talking about now, about AI for supply chain and so forth. That is that we need a lot of data, of quality data and structured data, but the market is not still ready for this. So we have to manage this issue before great advancement.
Yeah, it's very true. Very, very true. I think the cultural change is possibly even bigger than the technological change.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that. And Terence, any final thoughts and comments?
No, I'm just very happy to communicate with you and like the academia industry or something. I think that's really helpful to my research or the future works.
Great. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so with that, I will conclude the session. It was really great to hear your thoughts and understand your current research. And I'm very happy that this is happening. I'm learning a lot as well. And I will conclude the call for today.